Tropican Lifetime Formula can be identified by the blue bag. Not necessarily the bird that's on the bag, because it's a great diet for all of our companion birds. Tropican Lifetime is offered in 3 different sizes of morsels. We have the small granules, parrot-sized granules, and we also have the Lifetime sticks. In choosing a size of granule or stick for your bird, sometimes it's a matter of the caretaker and the bird's preference. It also depends on where you're going to be serving this food to your bird. When adding Tropican Lifetime granules to your bird's foraging toys, choosing the size is going to have a lot to do with what the item is that you're going to be using as a foraging device. For instance, granules work best in a corrugated cardboard toy, and whereas a food stick might also do really well in a Bury lantern or something that will accommodate a larger morsel. Sometimes the species has a lot to do with what size. For instance, Goffin cockatoos, large parrot for some people, but they really do well with the smaller granule. Some of the smaller species of parrots, especially Quaker parakeets, oftentimes like to hold food in their feet and enjoy it that way. However, some of them like the granule size, and some of them like the small granule size. Tropican Lifetime Formula is a complete diet. We can tell by looking at the guaranteed analysis that it is, in comparison to our high performance diet, it's lower in caloric value, has lower fats, and lower proteins. Tropican Lifetime diets can be identified by the natural colors. We have a 3-color base in our diets. The green is derived from the chlorophyll from the alfalfa ingredient. The orange is a beta-carotene sourced from the tomatoes that are in there. And then of course the yellow is just a natural grain color. The exception to the colors that you see in Lifetime Tropican would be our bulk bag, the 33-pound bag, and it's because of that type of packaging that we are unable to put the multicolors or the orange and banana spray on that. Because our ingredients are natural, it's going to dissipate rather quickly. The fruit smell that a lot of people comment on when they open up a bag of Tropican is derived from natural juices as well, banana and orange. Tropican diets are formulated with a very synergistic array of grains, and this results in a great selection of necessary amino acids, and this actually is reflected in impeccable feathers. Lifetime formulation is intended for birds that are in a pet status for the most part. They're usually adults. We also recommend it for fledged juvenile parrots. And in choosing when that life stage is appropriate for your bird, you might want to consult with your veterinarian. For instance, a cockatiel that is like 6 months old is probably a candidate for the Lifetime as opposed to being on a richer diet, whereas a macaw is probably going to be needing the high performance a little bit longer, and maybe up to 9 months. So if you have questions about that, then consult your avian veterinarian to see which stage your bird is in, because it can be species specific. Despite that, some birds actually will benefit from a switch to a high performance. They might be on Lifetime all the time or for the most part of the year, but high performance is going to offer them a higher protein value, and that will help the emerging feather to come out in a brilliant sheen and condition. Sometimes we think our birds are very active, and if you could just set up a camera to secretly film your bird to see what exercise they do, it's not enough to take a bird from an indoor cage or a night cage to a day cage or perhaps a gym if all he's going to do is go from one end of the perch to the other, especially if the food is there. That's something that we always, that is not the same as exercise or burning off excessive calories. When you're converting your bird to an extruded diet like Tropican, Lifetime can be the formula of choice, and it's especially successful if there are a lot of birds in a home or within sight of each other, because they mentor off of each other on their food choices. When you have a single bird, or a bird with an unknown history, or maybe you know for a fact that it's a bird that is addicted to his seeds and is more challenged with eating an extruded diet, sometimes the high performance makes a better choice because it's higher in calorie and therefore the flavor is more powerful and enticing to the bird. Lifetime was formulated for birds that are less active. Most of our companion birds in reality are less active. These are birds that are probably not flying on a regular basis. They may also be birds that are not exposed to challenges in their environment like temperature, and that. Tropican does not offer a species-specific diet in the family of formulations. But we do know that there are some species dispositions that we have to be aware of. There's definitely some individualized parrots that are prone to obesity, but when it comes to species, sometimes we have to look and consider Amazons, rose-breasted cockatoos, and even those Quakers. In evaluating your bird's overall diet, it's important to consider the enrichment diet portion and the value of the calories that are involved in that. Sometimes we have, we offer sunflower seeds or nuts, tree nuts for our birds as their enrichment diet. And for those birds, Lifetime is a better choice simply because of the calorie content on the overall diet. Some birds do have individual challenges and are prone to obesity, and these are birds that might be handicapped. They might have an age-related issue, or they could have a medical issue that predispositions them for obesity. We also might want to look at birds that have unknown histories, and they might be a bit overweight. So we definitely have to make those considerations in evaluating their diet. My parrots at home, especially my pet parrots that they have a day cage and a night cage activity, and for the Amazon and the African gray daytime, they like their bigger sticks. It's something that works for them, but at nighttime when I bring them in and put them in their sleep cages, they always have the granule size. That way they can just reach over, nibble as they need during the night or early morning before I'm ready to get them up and transfer them to their day cage.